of muscle and wind. For thousands of years, humans had pulled, pushed, steered, rode, and climbed, relying on the strength of their own bodies or the power of animals. Even the grandest ships crossing entire oceans depended on the whims of the breeze. Time passed slowly in those days. Another city. A shipment of coal might take months to arrive. People lived with limits they never questioned, because they could not yet imagine a world that moved faster. But in the 18th century, in a Britain thick with coal smoke and restless ambition, something new began to stir beneath the surface of everyday life. It started deep underground, in the damp and dangerous mines where men descended every morning to hack black stones from the earth. These stones, coal, a world hungry for heat, metal, and production. Yet the deeper the miners dug, the more water flooded in, turning shafts into drowning pits and threatening to halt the industry that sustained entire towns. The need was urgent. The solution, however, was still far from clear. A problem in the mines. On a gray and misty morning in 1710, Jonathan Price stood at the edge of the Black Hill mine near Newcastle, staring into a shaft that now resembled a well more than a workplace. Water shimmered at the bottom, reflecting the faint daylight like a pool of mercury. Another whim workers waited, tools resting on their shoulders, boots coated in mud, carried the same mix of frustration and resignation that had become common over the last few years. "Unless we drain it," one miner said, "we'll have to abandon the whole lower level." Jonathan, the mine's overseer, felt a familiar weight in his chest. Abandoning a level meant losing profit. Losing profit meant losing investors. Closing the mine entirely. Hundreds of men depended on Black Hill, including Jonathan's own father, who had worked in the mine until his lungs were no longer strong enough to breathe underground. "We need another pump," Jonathan said. A few men exchanged "The pumps we have," someone replied. "And the horses." Jonathan closed his eyes. He already knew the answer. Mine already employed 12 horses working around the clock to power a wooden pumping system. The animals strained endlessly, walking in circles to keep the rotors turning. But the deeper the mine sank, the more water it collected. No number of horses could keep up. Something had to change. Something new was needed. Something the world had not yet seen. An idea takes shape. The first attempts to solve the mine flooding crisis did not come from Jonathan, nor from any miner. And restless inventor named Thomas Newcomen, and a thinker by temperament. Newcomen had spent years watching the struggle of mines like Black Hill. He had seen the horses collapse from exhaustion, the wooden beams warp from constant use, the endless fight against water. But unlike most, he believed the problem had an answer. In a workshop cluttered with pipes, boilers, valves, and sketches pinned to the walls, Newcomen paced back and forth. He paused occasionally to scribble a new idea or correct an old one. Coal dust floated in the air, and the smell of heated metal lingered like a permanent guest. "Heat," he whispered to himself. "Heat, pressure, and motion." His apprentice, young Edward Hall, looked up from polishing a brass fitting. "Sir?" Newcomen tapped a sheet of parchment on the machine, a piston, boiler beneath it, pipes leading in and out like veins. "Imagine," Newcomen began, "using steam not merely for cooking or warming a room, but to move something." Edward frowned. Move something? Like a wheel?" "Like a pump," Newcomen said with growing excitement. Steam expands when heated. It pushes. But when cooled, it collapses, Edward finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. Exactly. And that collapse creates suction strong enough to pull down a piston. If we could harness that force... The apprentice's breath caught.